Yeah, okay. If you remember Macbeth and Lady Macbeth walking through the halls at night, right, washing her hands, and that line, "Methinks thou dost protest too much." If you remember that line, the rest of this is probably going to make some kind of intuitive sense to you, like that. Uh, Sure, if you've ever seen the crazy sports car, or the truck with the huge tires and the lift and all the chrome and accessories and whatnot on it, and gone, hey, that guy's compensating for something, then the rest of this is going to make some kind of intuitive sense, and I'm just going to put all that maybe maybe in some fancier language. What I'm saying is, the more blinged out someone is with religious paraphernalia, like the less I trust them actually to be good practitioners, solid moral practitioners of whatever that faith is. The bigger the cross, the less the Christian. All right. So we'll start here. Let's start with two kinds of religion ultimately. And I know there's lots of two kinds of this, two kinds of that. This is just another one. And I'm sure, yeah, absolutely, I'm being unfair. And you could say it's a continuum, and there's other dimensions and whatever. All right, but these two kinds of religion. One, an in-group religion, where if you're a member of that faith, then you are saved. You don't have to worry about deeds because you're a good in-group member, and so you get into heaven and you get all the protections and whatever of being in that thing, like that. Well, those religions don't necessarily drive people to do really moral actions. They drive people to do faith demonstrations and give money to the church, maybe, or be seen giving money to their church, and go on Wheel of Fortune, and your personality question is I am faith and whatever. But there's no reason really to give money to homeless people, or support starving children in foreign countries or anything of that nature. It's all very surface level, in-group membership, not necessarily being a good person, right? And then the other kind of religion, put them at the other end of a scale here, would be the religions that inspire you to be better people, right? To try and understand the Buddha's revelation, or the Christic revelation, or Muhammad's revelation. Muhammad, if there's a poor person in your town and they don't have anything to eat, and you are rich, that is a sin. That's a sin. All right? So we're talking really about the tension between works and faith, okay, where mere belief is sufficient to get into heaven, or some actual demonstration on earth. And Jesus allegedly is reported to have said in various ways, that faith is just insufficient, that on the last day, he'll know you by how you treated strangers. You've met Jesus. He came to your door begging because he was naked and starving, and how you treat the beggar, right, is how Jesus knows you. And go and worship in your closet. The rich have their reward on earth. You'll have your reward in heaven. Your public piety, however, will avail you nothing. Go and worship in your closet, to paraphrase. Hmm? So two kinds of religion, and certainly at times, the New Testament points towards the have faith and you're saved kind, the in-group kind, a little bit, but leans much more heavily into you have to actually be out doing these works, and not bragging about them, not with your phone out, okay? So then, next thing is neuroconservatism. So just a bunch of studies, mostly starting in like the late 1990s. Some not published because what the hell would you do? What the hell could you do with this information? That's not evil, really, right? But we know that people who tend to vote more conservative, and we'll let conservatives define conservatism for this purpose, right? People who vote for conservative parties and causes and judges, they tend to have more limbic system activation when they're making their decisions. That is, you shove someone in an fMRI, you ask them to make political decisions, and the part of their brain that lights up, as it were, is the part of the brain that processes fear, disgust, and rage. That's the amygdala. All right? And people making more liberal or progressive decisions, people voting Democrat, I guess, in modernity, although conservatives used to be the liberals. Leave that for another time. Leave that for another time. They're using their frontal lobe more when they're making their decisions, and their limbic system less. And that, I mean, it's not an either or absolute finding, but it is this strong central tendency. You can get there another way as well, is you can activate limbic systems, then get people to make these sorts of more or less conservative decisions, right? So you have a case and a scenario. Someone's been found guilty, and how much punishment do they deserve? Well, if you expose people to foul smells before you ask them to make that decision, they endorse harder prison time, harder jail time, right? So this is the neuroconservative. The neuroconservative is making more limbic kinds of decision. They have a more limbic kind of morality, which is geared towards in-groups, right? Protecting people like you, and necessarily disadvantaging people not like you. Okay? So, also, psychologically, people who vote conservative are more into symbols than people who don't vote conservative. So, like burning flags, burning U.S. flags as a matter of protest. You can absolutely love your country and set fire to American flags or fly them upside down, but treating the symbol of the thing as though it were actually the thing, that burning flags is burning America, and that's a real neuroconservative move, right? So the more that people wear giant crosses, the more they're virtue signaling their group inclusion. You'd better look out. I'm part of this group, and my group is great, and therefore, if you're not in my group, you're necessarily not great. Necessarily not great. There. So there's this kind of in-group flavor of Christianity with the giant mega churches and the hating the gays and so on, that has little or nothing to do with inspiring people to compassionate action, the way that the Jesus or Muhammad or the Buddha would have really tried to inspire people. You know, feed the hungry and clothe the poor and house the homeless and heal the sick, and so forth, right? So the last thing for your consideration is politics and religion must necessarily get fascier and fascier, more and more fascist, because of the principles of natural selection. Natural selection, of course, works on religious and political ideology. Why wouldn't it do that? All right. So, I mean, if you are into the words of the founders of the religions, and they're all like, how faithful you are doesn't matter, and people who aren't Christian can certainly get into heaven if they lead good lives. Wouldn't it be weird for God to never give any like absolute sign and then punish people for using their critical thinking skills? Of course atheists can get into heaven, if they're good and they think about other people and they're compassionate and whatever. Well, in that case, if you have like a non evangelical religion where you actually go worship in your closet and you never try to recruit someone into that religion's not going to last very long, you know? And then if your religion is like, oh, here's our religion, and the Dalai Lama wrote this book about Buddhism, and like almost the first page, he's saying, if you like this stuff, think about it, and if you don't like this stuff, there's absolutely no reason for everyone on Earth to be a Buddhist. Okay, well that's not gonna have legs, man. That's not gonna have legs. And the easiest way to create in-groups and maintain in-groups is to threaten them with out-groups. So even an evangelical kind of religion that is not threatening you, that God hates the gays and that's why he sends hurricanes, and the God of Islam really doesn't like the Christians that much, death to America, whatever it is, it's just not going to be popular. It's not going to hang around because in groups require out groups. Why be a fan of a sports team except that there are other sports teams with whom you have to compete? Even Taylor Swift uses this stuff, she's watching an album climb up the charts and she gets on the social media and like, look, we're about to beat out those Led Zeppelin guys, whoever the hell they are, or whatever band it was, encourage fans to have at least gentle beefs with the fans of other bands or stars or whatever to get competitive, to drive your album, up to the top, make it matter for people in that way. So there we are. Political parties, especially conservative political parties, are just doomed, and religion is just doomed to get more and more fascist, to use the principles of riling people up against vulnerable minorities, because otherwise, what does it matter? If people are just out using their critical thinking skills, then you'd realize that religion is false, and maybe it's meaningful for you and maybe it isn't, but it's false. Without any sort of external threat to drive up the need to wear the big crosses or the MAGA hats or whatever it is, It's just you disprove all the conservative principles, like small government, it's not effective, it doesn't do good for people, tax cuts for rich people, makes a shittier and shittier economy, climate change is happening, it's happening now, you disprove all the stuff that seem to be the principles, and what's left to make people want to vote for that party or go to that mega church, right? You gotta scare them that trans people are out there out competing their daughters on swim team or something. All right. Why do you keep coming back here? This has been the Black Pill. See you around the campus.